So, welcome, Joakim, to Metalerian Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you. Thanks for your time, and it's a pleasure to talk with you again. So, how are you? How is the band during this fucking pandemic? Everything?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Well, it could have been worse, actually. Things are opening up in around where we're based, Scandinavia. So, as it seems now, we're going on tour in April in Sweden, and slowly but surely, things are getting back to more of a normal situation that we're used to. But we were lucky enough to be able to play some shows last summer as well, and to start touring in the United States with Judas Priest.
Mhm. Okay, you are releasing the new album in March 4th. So the War of End of Wars. So when you did decide to work on this new album, was this planned before the pandemic or was meanwhile?
It came partly because of the pandemic, I guess. Because when we did our previous album, The Great War, we already felt like we were leaving some stories behind. We wanted to tell the story of the Christmas Truce and the Harlem Hellfighters. But we didn't have the right music, simply, so we chose not to. And when we announced The Great War and when we toured with it, we got so much feedback from, friends and fans sending us stuff. Did you know about this? And there was a lot of, how the fuck did we not know about this? Fantastic stories. And yeah, at the same time, when the pandemic hit, we were in the middle of the tour for the Great War. We'd only done, Europe, a part of North America, and a part of Russia. But we had not done Latin America, Japan, Australia, So we felt if we do something different now, because we wanted to do something in the downtime, is that going to make the songs from the Great War feel irrelevant? And are we just going to throw them to the side? And then we thought, but we have these great stories that we didn't fit on the last album. We have these stories we found out, and now we can expand on our World War One universe, sort of, and bring that to stage.
Okay, okay. In terms of sound, this new album has the Sabaton sound and what we enjoyed in the previous album. So how can you describe the album in terms of sound and lyrics? What can your fans expect?
Um, Production-wise, I think it's the best sounding album Sabaton ever did. There's some sort of, it's always subjective to a sense, but at least there we can have some objectivity on the sound, to some degree. I think guitar sounds better than ever, for example, and the whole production in itself. Songwriting wise, I mean, songs are subjective. Some people are gonna like it, some people are not gonna like it, unfortunately. It would be better if everybody liked it. But I know for sure that in the stories there are more surprises here. Obviously, we have Christmas Truce, which I guess most people will have heard about, but a lot of the greatest hits, if you will, or most famous events were already on the Great War. And I also think there is a little bit more variation musically on this album. More surprises.
Okay. Nice to hear that. So, to develop your own sound as a band is very important. So, especially in times where there is a lot of competition and we have access up to thousands of bands through digital platforms. But there is always a risk of repeating yourself too much. So, that's the way. So, how can you find the balance in order to avoid that?
Oh, that's a really good question. If I don't have an answer. I'm struggling with it every time I sit down to write a song, because in a way you want it to sound like Sabaton, of course, and I guess most fans would want it to sound like Sabaton as well. And everybody has their, I mean, if you've been in the business for a while, everybody has their favorite era of a band, and our our methodology and how we chose to deal with it has always been, let's always make sure we remain Sabaton as a core, but there must be constant evolution somehow, But we are not, it's very important to say we're not a revolutionary band, totally different between every album. But if you listen to, let's say, The War to End All Wars, the upcoming album, and The Great War, you can hear there's a difference, but it's not massive, But if you listen to our latest album, The War to End All Wars, and listen to our first album, then there's a huge difference.
Yes.
So I think in that sense, we've slowly but surely evolved. And I think that's what we're going to keep on doing, you know. People sometimes forget that, you know, when we do experiments or whatever you want to call it, I mean, Ghost Division, which is considered a, you know, Sabaton classic, very typical for Sabaton. When we did that style of stuff the first time in 2008, we had never done anything like that before. So that was a experiment on our part, which then incorporated and became a part of the Sabaton sound, is what people expect from us. So we always try and get 2 to 4 surprises on each album. You know, that could be, some of them work, some of them really don't, but then we don't do any more of them.
Okay, okay, talking about the lyrics again. So maybe for some people, the idea of talking about war can limit the topics for your lyrics. But you are showing us that there is always something interesting to tell about war and what we can learn from the history. So how do you choose exactly what to tell about war? How is the process of making the lyrics?
uh, the first of all is like, we need stories that we feel passionate about, and the best way is for us to discover them. You know, we found out that, you know, reading a lot and doing research a year earlier and then going back to it, it feels old somehow, you know. But at the core, it has to be a story we're passionate about, that we feel like, wow, we want to tell the world, or we want to find out more, and sort of invite people to join that discovery process, sort of. Because I think it's a discovering history is a fantastic thing. I love it. You know, it's not like we're trying to teach people history. We're sort of inviting people to join us on our journey of discovering history, sort of. And yeah, the trick is there are always songs we want to do and stories we want to tell, but we don't have the right music for it. And there are always really important stories that we should tell, but we, for some reason, don't feel passionate about telling. So that's tricky. I mean, for every song we choose to, or story we choose to make a song out of, it feels like we're abandoning 10 others, you know?
Okay, okay. Something for me that's awesome that I saw is that the Royal Military Museum in Brussels is holding an event or exhibition based on the war or to end all wars. So what can you tell about this? Because it's very amazing, this one.
Yeah, it's a fantastic museum. I mean, if anyone ever makes it to Brussels, I'd highly recommend a visit. We had a, what do you call it, a pre-listening session. We had a world premiere for media, for journalists there in December or November. I can't remember. I think it was December. And we had some journalists come over, showed them the album, and they also had, when they weren't doing interviews, we sort of had them going on tours, and the guides were fantastic. At least the two I had. It's an amazing museum. So when they asked if they could do sort of a, yeah, the war to end all wars experience on the release day of the album, I mean, we said, of course, yes. They let us borrow the whole museum, for fuck's sake, for 2 days. And yeah, I mean, they have so much more than only World War I, but the idea is fans can choose between Dutch or Flemish, French or English guiding, and then they will go through the story of the album with a guide. And when they leave, they sort of get the album in their hand on the release day, or possibly the day before. I don't know, actually.
Hmm. Okay. In addition, this kind of event, you also have a YouTube channel, Sabaton History, for around 3 years that show us clearly how serious you take the history. How has been the experience of making these videos until now? How do you feel? How do you feel about fans' response to this idea?
Uh, I'm both happy, but I'm also a little bit disappointed at the same time. I mean, I love doing it. I just recorded 2 days ago was when I recorded some new episodes. We do them like 2 or 3 or 4 at a time. We started making stuff for the new album now, and it's like, I'm really happy to share it, and it's so cool that so many people are discovering. I mean, in many cases, you need some basic information to know why we wrote the lyrics the way we did it, and this is a great way for us to explain that. But it's weird that we have fans who are sort of say they're really into Sabaton, they're really into history, but they can't spend 15 minutes or whatever to see that episode that will give them all the knowledge they know, you know. And but I figure people have busy lives, but I still think I mean, not for every episode. I mean, there's over 100, but at least for their favorite songs, some should really look into it. So they don't send us emails. You should write a song about D-Day.
Okay, okay. So going back to the new album, there is a history edition. That's what can you tell us about this, about it, and how do you come with this idea, history edition? Because it sounds amazing.
Well, it is our way of sort of inviting the listener and to what do you call it? Narrated version. Before every song, we have a narrator called Beethan, who is telling the story of what is happening in this song and why, where are we in the world. It makes it easier for you to understand what this song is about. It's just random heavy metal coming. And I really recommend anyone to listen to this version of the album for the first couple of times, because it really helps. Okay, so we're in Bulgaria where they are fighting the British. Okay, cool. And, you know, you get a little bit of explanation of what's going on. On the other hand, I totally understand that when you've heard the album 5 times already or more, and you have friends over for barbecue, you don't want that talk. You just want to get to the metal, and that's totally fine, you know. So I'd recommend almost everybody, unless you're super good at history, to listen to the history edition first, so you know what story we're telling and what setting it is. And then, yeah, once you know that, go listen to the regular.
Okay, okay. Also, we are living in times where most people focus on singles that complete albums. The idea of making a history edition encourage people to enjoy the complete album. So what else can bands do in order to promote the listening of the complete albums instead of just singles or playlist?
Oh, that's a tricky part. If if I'd had the answer to that, I'd be a millionaire. I don't know, actually. First of all, this is a two-way street. Artists also have to realize that they have to make albums that are good enough for the listeners to listen to the whole album. And they have to spend the time and effort and at least fucking try. And some artists, I would say, don't, it feels like. Also, the listener, music is consumed differently these days. It's not the primary entertainment anymore. How many people do you know? I mean, obviously, you and I guess, would listen to a whole album, sit down and listen to the music only. But we are not representative of the majority of the population these days. Music is something that you play while you're on the train. Music is something that's going on while you're playing a video game. Music is something added to a movie or a video clip you're watching on YouTube. So I think it has to do a bit with the perception of how music is treated. And unless you're that kind of person that gets all those images and everything you need from only the audio, it's going to be hard to get people to enjoy a whole album. Because I don't think most people would even consider to sit down for, let's say, 45 minutes, the length of a regular album, and listen to only music.
Okay, okay, okay. Also, I'm curious about the cover art. How do you choose your cover art?
Oh, that's very easy. We we sort of ask for a draft first. With that asking for a draft, we talk about what the album is going to be like, any ideas we have, and then we have this Hungarian guy called Peter Salai, who makes such good fucking art that all we have to do is just say yes when he does it. And then, of course, we have suggestions, you know, we're going to have stories. I mean, on this album, there's a lot of secret hints on the artwork to all the different songs and stuff. So we add those later. But in general, that's Peter's magic, not ours, you know.
Okay, okay. Well, returning to the new album. So, what are the future plans for this new one? Perhaps a Latin tour here. You told me that you will have a tour in April. So, perhaps other tours here.
Yes, I mean, actually now all we want to do is to get out and play, because we had a few shows and we realized, we already knew it was fun, but we realized how fucking fun it was now. So our main priority now, when people have asked us about future plans, and I mean, we all looked at each other the first time in Belgium, it was like, touring. I mean, when can we expect the next Sabaton album? We have no fucking idea. All we want to do is tour. We want to make sure we prioritize as well territories where we didn't play on the Great War Tour,
Okay. Okay. So, talking about other aspects on metal scene, do you have time to listen new bands? How do you see the power metal scene nowadays?
Oh, there was a few years ago, and it's still going on, I guess, but a good vibe or explosion, at least in Scandinavia. I mean, obviously that's where I'm from. It's what I'm most surrounded by. But I mean, we had over a few years, I mean, yeah, maybe Battle Beast was a little bit before, but then the separation there coming Beast in Black. We have, Twilight Force. So from the power metal scene, I think there's quite a lot good going on, actually, or was at least. I really liked a few of the later stuff that Battle Beast did as well. Then what are they called now? Brothers of Metal, from our neighborhood, sort of. Really, really good power metal band. If they can be called power metal, I don't know, but seems like the breeding ground for traditional 80s / power metal or whatever is pretty strong in Scandinavia anyway.
Okay. It does this matter. What is your opinion about the power metal movement in Japan with pop elements, with rock elements? Because there is a lot of bands there that mix the pop elements. Perhaps you can hear Beyonce with Halloween mix.
Yeah, I don't know actually, because sometimes for me, I can admire the fact that they are so unconservative. They don't give a fuck at all. They'll mix anything they want. And I can admire that. But that doesn't mean I have to always like the result, if you know what I mean. Sometimes it's too fucked up for me, But at the same time, it's kind of liberating that they're willing to break all those don't go there. For example, a band I can admire is Baby Metal. What the fuck? First time I heard about it, like, what the fuck? And then I'm, with an open mind, on the other hand, like, this is not so bad. Actually, it's good that there are more rules being broken in the music industry, I think, So I'm happy on that. But on the other hand, yeah, I don't listen much to J-pop and stuff.
Okay. So also I saw you a couple of times in this part of the world, in Latin America. Did you have the chance to listen bands from here, from Latin America? And perhaps do you want to share any memories from your last tours in this part of the world? Any big anecdote that you remember for all your time or all your life?
Yeah, I remember in general what a fucking noise there was. For example, if you play in Scandinavia and there are 10,000 people there, it's going to be loud on those some nights, if they're drunk, that is. But in general, it's going to be pretty slow. While going to Latin America, pretty much everywhere, I'd say. Even if there's, 10 times as few, 1,000 people instead of 10,000. They sound 10 times fucking louder, The parties there, even if it's a weekday, people are jumping, singing along, and it's, I really enjoy the time on stage, People screaming between songs so I can barely speak,
Okay, so Sabaton always delivers great shows in big festivals and even in smaller venues. So what do you prefer, to play in a festivals, or perhaps to play in a small venues?
I like both a lot. I mean, because after a whole festival of summer of European festivals, it is so cool to do all that with the production. But at the same time, I feel like I miss the connection with the crowd. On the other hand, if we've been on a tour in a territory where we've been smaller, after a while it starts to feel cramped. because there might not be enough stage for us, place for us on stages. But I mean, let's just say if I had the choice and I would have the, yeah, what do you call it? The same amount of success no matter what. I really enjoy, let's say, theater or small arenas, large theaters or clubs where, let's say, we can have between 2,000 to 3,000 maybe, or because then it's large enough that nobody needs to look on a screen, you know, and there can still be some sort of closeness, especially if there's balconies. That's amazing. And then there is still usually enough space for us on stage to move around and do funny stuff. Sure, we're not going to have room for much production, but hey, I don't need the production. It's fun if we have it, but yeah, medium-sized, I say.
Okay. Talking about your voice, when do you find your own method to sing? Because your own method to sing is very different than usually. The usually power metal bands is la la la
Oh
la
yeah.
la, this kind of stuff. But when you sing as much, all of a sudden you have more harsh, more tough. When I saw you alive, you sing like a tough man.
Yeah, but I never planned to sing. That's the fucked up way, because I was coming into a bunch of guys was called Aeon at the time in 1999, and they were rehearsing, and they didn't have any songs of their own. They just played covers of everything. Could be Sabotage, could be Dimmu Borgir, and everything in between.
Okay.
And it turns out that none of them wrote their own songs, and I had a few songs. So they asked me, do you know the vocal melodies? I'm like, yeah. And then told me, okay, can you sing so we can hear the vocal melodies? And I couldn't sing. I was shit at it. Still am. And then they basically told me, yeah, you'll sing until we find a singer. Lazy bastards. So here I am, the keyboarder who got to sing. Yeah, because in 2005, they told us, oh, we found a keyboarder. I'm like, no, that's my job. No, you're the singer. I'm like, fuck.
Okay.
So it was never my intention. So I never developed any sort of technique. I mean, yeah, I wish I would be able to be more versatile as a singer, be able to sing other stuff as well. But I never had to, because I never practiced anything else. I never felt like a singer. I always just sang what was Sabaton, and what was Sabaton sort of became how my voice was, because I had to write the songs so they fit my voice as well.
Mm. Okay. Well, we are very close to end this interview, Joakim. And perhaps, do you want to say anything to your Latin American fans? They expect a new year, a new gig, a new tour here. Or perhaps, do you want to add something wherever you want?
Very simple. Thank you for all the good memories, and trust me, we are looking forward to coming back. We don't know, because of, obvious reasons now, when it's gonna happen. But trust me, we are gonna come back. And we are gonna play you the songs we didn't get to play you on the last tour as well.
Okay. Well, Joaquin, thank you very much for your time. This is an awesome interview. So I have you like as I did. So congratulations for doing well. All the best for the Sabbath for the time, and thank you very much. Really.
Thanks for having me.